Good evening, I'm Pinky Webb. Tonight we ask the questions, we tackle the issues, we clarify matters, and we get on point. A victory for Vice President Sara Duterte as the Supreme Court blocks her impending impeachment trial. In a unanimous decision, the High Court declared the articles of impeachment as unconstitutional. It said the complaint is barred by the one-year rule and violates the rights to due process. Let's get on point with former Supreme Court Justice Adolfo Azcuna. Justice Azcuna, welcome to the show and thank you so much for your time. I know you're busy. You're in the middle of something. Maraming salamat po sa inyong oras. Hi, Justice. We're on air, Justice. Oh, you can't hear me? Justice Azcuna, can you hear me now?
Come again.
All right, Justice, it's Pinky. Can you hear me now?
Not clear.
Okay. This is what we'll do. I think we've been trying to get Justice Azcuna on Zoom. It might be it seems a bit of a challenge right now. Justice, we're gonna pause for a commercial break. Let's just have Justice Azcuna on the phone so we have a better understanding and we get a better interview with him. We'll be taking a very short break. Please stay tuned. Welcome back. Let's get on point with former Supreme Court Justice Adolfo Azcuna. Justice Azcuna, it's Pinky. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes. Good evening.
All right, Justice, good to have you. So the Supreme Court ruled in a unanimous decision that the impeachment complaint is unconstitutional because it violated the one-year bar rule that is explicitly part of Article 11 of the 1987 Constitution. Kindly explain to us how the impeachment complaint was violative of the one-year bar rule.
Okay, the Constitution provides that the impeachment complaint has exclusively to be filed by Congress, by the lower house. However, it requires that the lower house observe certain restrictions. One of them is that not more than one complaint for impeachment can be filed against the same official within 1 year. And in this particular case, the Supreme Court found that there were 3 other complaints earlier filed and dismissed. And therefore, the 4th complaint, which was the one that was voted by the lower house and became the articles, is against the requirement that not more than one complaint be filed within 1 year and is therefore invalid and cannot confer jurisdiction on the Senate.
So basically, Justice, it's saying that the 4th impeachment complaint, which constituted the articles of impeachment, which was passed last February 5, is a violation of the one-year bar rule because it took into account the first 3 impeachment complaints. Am I understanding it correctly, Justice?
That is correct. It took into account the first 3 complaints, which were earlier filed and endorsed by congressmen, but were not acted upon. And according to the Supreme Court, these were effectively archived and dismissed. And therefore, they counted them as a complaint that were initiated.
Okay.
And therefore, the subsequent complaint made by Congress is a violation of the more than one complaint in 1 year rule.
Justice, it's perfect. You said the right word. It was deemed initiated. That's my question. I'd like to understand how the first 3 were actually deemed initiated. I bring this up, Justice, because they've often talked about this Francisco ruling by the Supreme Court, wherein it is deemed initiated, a complaint rather, is deemed initiated once it is properly endorsed to the Committee on Justice. None of the three were endorsed to the Committee on Justice, to which the House prosecutors were saying none of it then had been initiated. Hence the question, why is there a one-year bar? Why was there a violation of the one-year bar rule?
Okay. In the case of the Davide ruling, the Supreme Court defined initiation of an impeachment complaint as putting it on the order of business and referring it to a committee. Therefore, the House in this particular case avoided referring the three complaints to a committee so that it will not be considered initiated. However, the Supreme Court in this particular case now considered these three complaints as initiated because they were supposed to be referred to a committee within 10 days. That is mandatory. The Constitution says shall be referred to a committee in 10 session days. Therefore, the non-deliberate, non-referral to a committee does not stop it from being considered initiated. In other words, this is what we call in law as deemed initiated. So it's like a letter that is not received but is deemed served. Itong tatlong complaint na ito, which were not referred to a committee, but which under the Constitution is required to be referred to a committee, are deemed referred to a committee, and therefore they are deemed to have been initiated.
Justice, is this a complete turnaround from what was earlier decided on as deemed initiated, which actually, as you were saying, it's deemed initiated once it's brought to the Justice Committee? Is this particular ruling a complete opposite of what was earlier decided upon by the Supreme Court, or is it still complementary?
Yes, the earlier case, I think, is Francisco case against Davide, which was decided by the Supreme Court when I was still there, and I took part in the decision.
So, is this decision by the Supreme Court today a complete turnaround from that decision that was made on the Davide case where you were still part of the Supreme Court? Because from my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Justice, is that it's deemed initiated once it's referred to the Justice Committee.
Yes, the present court considered the three cases complaints as still initiated, even if they were not referred to a committee. I understand that these three cases were archived, and according to the Supreme Court, they are therefore considered dismissed. And therefore, not only were they initiated, they were dismissed, and therefore they can be counted as a complaint filed within 1 year.
Do you agree with the decision of the Supreme Court that the three impeachment complaints, the first three, were deemed initiated, Justice?
Yes, because they were archived and therefore deemed dismissed. So that is more than initiated kasi na-dismissed pa.
But how was it dismissed? Because what happened last February 5, Justice, hindi ho ba, also part of the decision of the Supreme Court, which they wanted to find out, was that was it included in the order of business within 10 days? And it explicitly said in the ruling, let me read that part if you don't mind. The respondents were able to comply with Article 11, Section 3 by putting the three endorsed impeachment complaints in the order of business of the House of Representatives, which to me means hindi po sila nagkamali. There was nothing wrong. They weren't violating this 10-session day rule, which forms part of Article 11 of the 1987 Constitution, Section 3. No? So hindi po sila, that was not the problem. It appears that the problem now is that the first three impeachment complaints were actually deemed initiated. When they were
Uh,
first filed and endorsed by a House member last December 2, the second one was December 4, and the third one was December 19.
Yes, you are correct that technically, if you follow the definition of initiated in the Davide case, the three complaints were not yet initiated because they were not referred to a committee. However, the present decision, which is 97 pages long, I just skimmed through it.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
97 pages long.
Yeah, it actually took me, that's why I wanted to speak to you, because I really want to understand this decision by the Supreme Court, because in the beginning I thought, because it just happened, the decision just came out, I thought it was because they violated this 10-session day rule, but it appears that the Supreme Court said they were well within the 10-session day rule. The problem is that the fourth complaint, which formed the articles of impeachment, is actually the one violative of the one-year bar rule. Kasi nga, yung tatlong naunang impeachment complaint, that's what they took into account as deemed initiated. And it was not acted upon, so it was rendered dismissed. And therefore, it ended there on February 5, from my understanding, because that is the 10th session day. And then you cannot file anything again from that time on, February 5, until 1 year later, which is basically February 6 of 2026. Yun po yung pagkaintindi ko.
I don't think they counted it from the fourth complaint. I think they counted it from the first complaint.
Right.
Because they consider that as the ones initiated.
Okay.
And the fourth complaint is invalid.
Justice, how do we, I guess, reconcile an earlier decision that said that it's only deemed initiated once it takes action and is brought to a House Justice Committee? And when do we understand that this ruling now says that it was deemed initiated from the time it was filed? How do we reconcile these two decisions by the Supreme Court?
I think what you can say is that the definition in the Davide case has been modified in the sense that if the complaint is not referred to a committee, deliberately not referred to a committee, within the 10-session day period required under the Constitution, it is deemed referred and therefore initiated.
And that's what, and because that is the ruling of the Supreme Court, that is what will stand from now on till, I don't know, Justice, I guess another decision is made.
Yes, from now on, if the complaint is under the first mode, that is filed by a citizen unendorsed by a Congress or representative, it has to be referred to a committee within, it has to be calendared within 3 session days and referred to a committee within 10 session days.
All right.
Otherwise, it will be deemed initiated.
All right. Former Supreme Court Justice Adolfo Azcuna. Justice, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Paul.
We'll be taking a short break. When we return, we'll speak with House Prosecutor Representative Leila de Lima and Navotas City Representative Toby Tiangco. Stay tuned. This is On Point. With the articles of impeachment against Vice President Sara Duterte now declared unconstitutional by the Supreme Court, what's next for the House of Representatives? Let's get on point with ML Partylist Representative Leila de Lima, one of the House prosecutors, or supposed to be House prosecutors. Congresswoman Leila, good evening. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for your time.
Good evening, Pinky. Good evening to your viewers.
Did this come as a shock to you, Congresswoman?
Yes, it's unbelievable. Hindi ko hindi ko po akalain, and especially that it's a unanimous decision, and then the core ruling being that barred na. In other words, ay nabago yung what we know to be the existing case law na, that this impeachment complaints, lalo na kung initiated by private complainant, a private petitioner, and endorsed by a member of the House of Representatives, are supposedly considered deemed initiated if referred to the Justice Committee, the proper committee. But it did not. That's not the situation here.
Yeah,
That's not the situation here. So parang sinasabi nila na since it was not referred to the proper committee, I deemed terminated. Maski the other two complaints. Diba, remember there were 3 impeachment complaints, and these are these fall under different modes of initiating impeachment. At hindi ngayon natuloy kasi it was already overtaken by the 4th impeachment complaint, which is also sanctioned by the Constitution and the rules ng House of Representatives na kapag endorsed by 1/3, at least 1/3, then yun na yun, that's it. That is the very articles of impeachment. Kaya the first three complaints by private groups were considered archived kasi hindi na nga na-refer.
Yeah.
But I find it really surprising na nakakagulat na ganyan, para bang iniba nila yung standing case law on that. Na ano pala, anong first pa lang pala, being initiated na simply because it was not referred to the Committee on Justice. And precisely, I see nothing wrong. I mean, walang linalabag sa Constitution, walang linalabag sa rules, and in fact, it is in conformity with the rules of impeachment ng House of Representatives na there's walang prohibition na hintayin na muna yung ibang complaints, because that's exactly what happened here. The Secretary General, hindi muna niya refer o hindi muna niya refer sa Office of the Speaker so that it can be included in the order of business. Kasi pwede yon. Kasi yung naging rational ng the previous ruling, I'm not sure anymore whether it's the Gutierrez ruling or
Francisco. I think it's Francisco,
yes,
Congresswoman.
Francisco, yes, yes. You're correct, Pinky. It's Francisco. Na walang prohibition dyan sa multiple.
Yeah.
Yung multiple complaints. Kasi what if yung first complaint ay yung pwede nating tawagin na sham. Haphazard. Sham. Para lang to preclude the filing of a more legitimate impeachment complaint. Diba? Yun ang ano doon. That's the very rational kung bakit gano'n ang sinabi noon ng Supreme Court sa Francisco case. Na pwede rin yun, nahintayin na muna kasi baka mas maganda yung mga iba pa na mga ifa-file. Mas diligent, mas seryoso yung mga mag-ahain. So how come there's now of course, I've not really read the decision. I'm just relying on the news reports and then yung sa press conference, the press briefing of the spokesperson of the Supreme Court. Pero yung nakikita ko, iniba na nila ngayon. So that what makes it that really disappointing. Ano ba yan? And all the while, akala natin, valid talaga yung 4th impeachment complaint.
Okay, so to give context to that, Congresswoman, because I was also looking into the decision, it's already online, of the Supreme Court. To be very clear about it, it says this: respondents were able to comply with Article 11, Section 3.2 by putting the 3 endorsed impeachment complaints in the order of business of the House of Representatives. However, since the 19th Congress terminated, the 3 impeachment complaints became unacted upon. Since these complaints were archived, they were effectively terminated and dismissed. And then it says the filing of the articles of impeachment, this is the fourth one, the fourth impeachment complaint, under a different mode, namely Article 11, Section 3.4 is different from Article 11, Section 3.2. It is a different and separate mode of initiating an impeachment complaint. Therefore, it is already barred by Article 11, Section 3.5 of the Constitution. That's part of the
Isn't
summary.
That, okay, I see that. No, but isn't it that that fourth impeachment complaint by at least by one third of the members of the House of Representatives was also there, was filed, was taken up, was filed on the 10th session day, just like yung paglagay sa order of business ng first three complaints. So bakit balewalain nila yon? That's also on when? June 5, right?
Feb 5.
The same as the first three. As the first three complaints. So why would they now say deemed terminated? Yung tatlo, hindi naman deemed terminated yon or dismissed because it was never taken up. It was archived.
All right.
It was desired by the House na ang iti-take up nila at ang isusulong nila is the fourth one, the direct.
Yeah.
The direct
Congresswoman,
complaint.
what is the plan
Yes.
now? As we mentioned a while ago, that was a unanimous decision by the 13 Supreme Court justices.
Well, I'm almost sure, although I have not really, kasi nga I'm not officially yet a member of the prosecution team, no, but just a prospective member of the prosecution team. Now, so hindi ko rin alam right now what exactly is the plan of the House, but I should say that I think a motion for reconsideration is very much called for,
All right.
very much warranted. Kasi mahirap tanggapin ngayon yung ganyang naging ruling, and especially so it's being made complicated now. I don't know, there is this latest report about an announcement or a pronouncement of Senator Joel Villanueva. I don't know kung totoo yun, saying na even with that Supreme Court decision, Senate would proceed. I don't know. What is happening? What is really happening?
I guess we're going to have to see what happens, Congresswoman, on July 28th
Correct.
or
Correct.
even July 29, either the morning prior to the son of the president or the day after the President's State of the Nation address.
But certainly the civil society groups, various groups now are planning for certain indignation mass actions.
All right.
Yes.
Congresswoman Leila de Lima, ma'am, maraming salamat po sa inyong oras.
Maraming
Thank you.
salamat din, Pinky.
All right, now let's speak to another congressman, Congressman Toby Tiangco. From what I recall, Congressman Toby was not part of that, he did not rather affix his signature in this impeachment complaint against Vice President Sara Duterte. Congressman, are you there, sir? Good evening. It's Pinky.
Yes, Pinky.
All right, I'm correct, no, Congressman Toby, hindi po kayo pumirma dito sa impeachment complaint against Vice President Sara Duterte?
Yes, tama yun. Pinky.
Balikan na
That's
lang po
correct.
natin, why did you not sign it back then? Yung sa articles of impeachment, the fourth one.
Sinabi ko naman yung reasons ko nun kung bakit hindi ko pinirmahan. But I think, if I remember correctly, the most important thing is that there was may isang bagay na sinabi ko sa'yo off the air, na sabi ko ayaw ko malagay on record, di ba? And I told you one of the reasons that I did not sign right after this happened, di ba? Nagpa-interview ako sa'yo, may mga sinabi akong reasons, pero sinabi ko sa'yo may isang reason na pasensya ka na, Pinky, hindi ko masabi on air, off the record na lang. I don't know if you remember that. Sabi ko, sa tingin ko may problema doon sa proseso. Di ba? I don't know if you remember.
Yeah, I do.
Recall that. I told you that.
It just has to
Pero
come
ayoko
from you,
nang-
sir, not me.
Yes,
Kasi,
I did. Hindi, totoo yun. Sinabi ko sa'yo na mukhang may problema. Ang tingin ko, personal na tingin ko, may problema sa proseso. At kung tayo ay magpa-file ng impeachment, dapat siguradong strictly sinunod yung proseso. Ayokong ilabas yan nun kasi naka one-third na, di ba? Tapos ang dami pa, magtatalo-talo pa kami. kung sino ang tama, kung talagang may problema ba o wala. So sabi ko sa'yo, intayin na lang natin kung may mag-file sa Supreme Court. Kasi hindi ko pa alam nun kung may nag-file o wala. Malalaman natin. So ngayon nag-decide na yung Supreme Court na may problema sa proseso. Sa tingin ko, hindi na natin dapat pagtalunan eh. Sundin na lang yung order ng Supreme Court. Kasi mahirap naman yung nadinig ko sinasabi, magmamass action. Alam naman natin kung ano yung sinabi ng Supreme Court, yan ang ruling at interpretasyon sa batas. Pag hindi na kasi tayo naniwala at question pa natin yung Supreme Court, magkakagulo-gulo na tayong lahat. Ipipilit natin na tama tayo. Pipilit ng kabila na tama sila. Sino magsasabi kung sinong tama?
Kung
Tsaka
Toby,
ito,
yun na nga
ano
po
eh.
There were some
Yes.
senators initially who were saying that posibleng they might still constitute themselves. Well, they've already constituted themselves as senator judges. Meron na lang pong 7 na hindi pa po nag-take ng oath, because they won in the last elections. But there is talk, rather, that they could talk about this and vote on this particular decision of the Supreme Court. In fact, there was reference to the past na it is similar to what happened doon po sa kaso ni former Chief Justice Renato Corona. So everything really, it seems, is up in the air right now, it being a Friday, and it's the President's State of the Nation address on Monday. And of course, mag-uumpisa po ang 20th Congress sa Lunes.
Hindi ko alam kung ano sabihin ko dyan, Pinky, dahil ang hirap. Ang akin lang is respetuhin lang kung ano yung desisyon ng Supreme Court kasi parang lumalabas unanimous is 13-1-1, di ba? So lahat nung nag-participate ay sinabing hindi pwedeng ituloy yung ngayon. So paano naman natin sasabihin na mali silang 13 at tayo ang tama? Yung isang kapanigan tama, parang ang hirap yata nun, parang lalo lang gugulo yung bansa natin. Anyway, sinabi naman na pwede mag-file sa February 6, di ba?
Opo.
So ang ibig sabihin nun, hindi naman mawawala yung accountability, kailangan lang natin i-file ulit sa February 6. So, ba't hindi lang pag-aralan mabuti, i-file ulit sa February 6, sinunod natin yung Supreme Court, ginalang natin, at naging accountable pa rin yung Vice President. Walang gulo, di ba? Tapos, from now until February, nakita naman natin ang daming problema natin ngayon. Pwede muna nating harapin ng House, ng Senado, lahat ng mga problema ngayon. Dahil pagkatapos ng SONA, di ba, ang pinakamahalagang pag-uusapan yung budget. So we can concentrate on the budget and make sure na it's not a mangled budget na pareho nung nangyari ng 2025.
That's it.
So
That's
yun
it,
lang muna
though.
siguraduhin natin. Let's look at the positive. Huwag na natin tignan yung masaya ba tayo o sa tingin natin tama, mali ba o tama yung Supreme Court. Kasi the Supreme Court can never be wrong. Diba? Yan ang prinsipyo dyan. They're always right.
But
Kasi pag sinabi natin,
Toby, does it kind of like weaken the resolve of the House of Representatives, especially during the 19th Congress when you had about 215 of them who initially signed, and then maybe 15, 20, or 35 more who signed, more than 1/3 of what is allowed in the Constitution. Did it weaken it? Siguro sa Tagalog, pwede pang sabihin na sampal ho ba ito sa mga naniwala at pumirma ng impeachment complaint against the Vice President?
Huwag na natin pag-usapan yan, Pinky, magkakasakitan lang eh. Ang sinasabi ko lang, ako kasi, very by the book pagdating sa mga ganyang bagay. If you will recall, in, I think, yung Corona impeachment, di ba ako lang isa ako sa mga hindi pumirma nun nung Corona impeachment. At ang sinabi ko nun, hindi sinunod yung proseso. So sa akin, napakahalaga talaga yung proseso. I'm just being consistent doon sa bagay na yon. And isipin natin, accountability of the Vice President is part of the rule of law. No? And ang pinaka-importante, the rule of law is based on what the Constitution says the law is. Diba? So kung gusto natin ng rule of law, gusto natin ng accountability, yan ay base kung sa anong interpretasyon ng Supreme Court doon sa batas.
Okay.
No, kasi laging may dalawang panig yan, tatlong panig, magtatalo-talo. Sino magsasabi kung sino tama? Supreme Court lang. So ang akin lang, sundin natin Supreme Court, pwede pa naman, hindi naman sinasabi she has to be accountable. Yes, she will be accountable pagdating ng February 6, di ba? O di i-file ulit sa February 6. Na yun, sa dami ng problema natin, ang siguraduhin ng House at ng Senado is yung budget ay hindi na mangyari ulit yung nangyari noong 2025 budget. So lahat makaka-concentrate, di ba? So tignan na lang natin kung ano, what we can make best out of the situation. Kung ano pwede natin gawin pinakamabuti dito sa sitwasyon natin ngayon.
Just to siguro read some of what was written in the decision, the court said it is not absolving the Vice President
correct,
Duterte
diba?
from any of the charges against her, but any subsequent impeachment complaint may only be filed starting February 6, 2026. Mabilis na mabilis lang po, Kong Toby. Nung sinabi niyo po nga sa akin noon na I could not say, na sabi mo may mali doon sa proseso, just quickly sir, ano ho ba yung nakita niyong mali sa proseso?
Hindi, yung talagang duda ako kung pwede talaga yung prosesong ganun di ba? Yung unang-una doon sa Constitution, di ba? Kung babasahin natin yung Constitution, wala namang SecGen na sinasabi doon sa Constitution, di ba? Ang sinasabi, upon receipt of the House, dapat within 10 days added into the calendar of business, di ba? Order of business, no? So, yun So, talagang, isa sa mga dahilan yon kung bakit hindi ako pumirma nun. Kaya lang ayaw ko lang sabihin nung panahon na yon. Kasi nga, out of due respect doon sa mga kasamahan ko na pumirma at nakuha na rin nila yung 1/3 na numero. No? Bakit pa ako magsasabi kung ano yung dahilan ko? So, pero yan yung isa sa pinakamabigat na dahilan na hindi ko lang masabi nung panahon na yun. Kahit ngayon, nag-rule yung Supreme Court, ganun.
Malaya mo nang nasasabi ngayon.
Yes, na at least nasabi ko sa'yo off the record.
Okay. Navotas City Representative Toby Tiangco, sir, maraming salamat din po sa inyong oras. Thank you, sir. That's On Point. Join us again on Monday, 7:30 p.m. here on BNC, the Billionario News Channel. I'm Pinky Webb. Thank you for watching.